I am really excited about today's show. I have been talking with my guest for a while about doing something together. And in fact, a good friend of mine, Matt Robinson from the Professional Investors Guild. So Matt, a shout out to you down in Pensacola, Florida. I started my real estate journey down there at his real estate club. So if you're ever in Pensacola, check out Matt Robinson and the Pig Group. It's really great. He had my guest at one of his events and put us in touch. We started talking to each other, and I thought it would be really great if we could do something together. And he's been gracious enough to come on the podcast, and we'll talk about a couple other things that we have planned. But I read this book, The 12-Week Year, years ago, and it really kind of changed the way that I look at productivity, accountability, things like that. And it really shaped the way that Becca Shea, who all of you know, and myself really showed up to our real estate business and everything that we did in life. So it's an honor for me to bring Brian Moran, the author of The 12-Week Year, on the podcast today to talk a little bit more about it, dig into it. I'm sure he's got some things for me and some ideas, concepts, things that I can use in my business. And I know you guys will too. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I guess real quick, if you can just give a quick background of you, kind of a little bit about your story and who you are and what you do, I think it'll be helpful for those who may not have picked up The 12-Week Year yet.
Sure. So currently I'm an author, speaker, consultant, coach, but my background started in corporate America. I paid my way through college at UPS, was getting a degree in physiology to be a strength coach. And they offered me a promotion into management, which at first I thought I didn't want, but then I took it. And then they offered me full-time, but I didn't take that, left, went to California, got in with PepsiCo, joined a consulting firm, So I've got this background in corporate America, but had always wanted to do my own thing. And so in my 30s, I decided we were moving back from California. We grew up in Michigan. My wife and I had moved to California, and we were out there about 10 years, but we want to be closer to family. So we decided to move back to Michigan. And in doing that, I got involved in a startup company, which I ran in health services, still own it, on the board, nothing day to day, but we do on-site medical surveillance. But that's not what I loved. What I really loved was coaching, training, helping people. And so kind of put the team in position there, and then started what today is the execution company, The 12-Week Year, and began working with some local clients, really trying to get a feel for, hey, what am I going to bring to them? What's going to be most valuable to them? And, Bill, initially I thought I'm going to bring them new techniques, new ideas, that kind of thing. And in doing that, I realized, they've all got great ideas. They've all got all kinds of resources. And so that's when my focus really shifted to helping them learn to execute. And so fast forward to today, everything we do is designed to help our clients accomplish more through more effective execution.
I want to ask you a question before we move into the kind of 12-week year, because you said you were in corporate America for a long time. You always wanted to do something on your own. It's most people see that as a little bit risky. Like, I'm going to jump out of corporate America. I'm going to leave my full-time job and I'm going to go out on my own. And I've always wanted to do it. So you use that exact words, always wanted to do your own thing. And I think so many of our listeners feel that exact same way. They have this like calling, this something that's pulling them somewhere else other than where they are right now. How did you make that decision? And what was that? What did it feel like for you? It was probably a long time ago, but I'm sure you still remember what that was like.
Yeah. How I made it was a little bit just timing. I was vice president in this organization in a $1 billion group. And, the chairman and I really didn't see eye to eye. And so we parted ways. And it was at that moment that I thought, this is a great time for me to do this if I'm going to do it. And so there was a group of guys doing a startup in Michigan here. And I was originally looking at Bill as just an investor in it, but they needed someone to start it and run it. So that's when I said, okay, I'll do that. So rather than going and searching for a new corporate position, I decided to do that. Right. I think some of what keeps people in the corporate space is this illusion of security. And so when you go through something like, the pandemic, and you find out you weren't very secure in that environment to begin with, then it makes making the leap a little easier. But if you're going to bet on yourself, right? Who better to bet on?
Yep. I totally agree with that. I say that a lot. So especially with my own money, with my decisions, all that. Let's jump into this 12-week year concept, because I think it's really amazing. And I'm interested to hear a little bit more from you, like a little bit deeper than what I know from the book, but the concept of being able to get more done, because just like you talked about, this execution piece is really missing from a lot of us. Even really high performers can dial it in a little bit better. And even if you think that you're really great at execution, I think you'll be surprised at some things that you can learn from you, Brian.
Yeah. So when I first started working around that, looking for the fundamentals that drive execution, we were still working in an annual environment because no one had ever questioned that, right? You set annual goals, you build annual plans, you break them down quarterly and monthly and weekly. And so by this time, Michael had joined me. He's the co-author, business partner. And we were realizing that, look, man, we were getting good results, but it just felt like we weren't getting what people were capable of. And we started to kind of figure out why that was. And it was the annual cycle. Because for most of the year, there's just too much time. It's like there's too much runway it's too easy to put things off. I talk about how in January, everybody's fired up, but you get to the end of the end of January, most people are behind their goal, they're behind their plan, and yet nobody's worried, right? They don't start worrying until very late in the year. And so we realized that environment that no one had even questioned, everybody just accepted it, was part of the barrier. Sure, you do better with goals and plans that are annual than none at all, but there was still a barrier in that. And we came across a concept in athletics called periodization. And we saw that and we realized that had some applicability for what we were doing with our clients and what we were doing in our own business. And that's really where we redefined a year. So, we started to work with the concept of 12 weeks as a year. And what 12 weeks does is it gives you enough time to make amazing progress. I mean, we have tens of thousands of people that do more in 12 weeks than they used to do in 12 months. But part of that, the reason that happens is because it's close enough that you don't lose sight of the deadline. So it's really difficult to procrastinate in a 12-week year, much more so than it is a 12-month cycle. And that was kind of the accelerant to the disciplines and principles, to the fundamentals that drive execution, high performance. That what the 12-week year did for that is created this healthy sense of urgency that doesn't exist in an annual cycle. And so what happens in that, Bill, is just more of the important stuff gets done day in, day out, week in and week out. And a few days of that probably doesn't matter. Even a couple of weeks doesn't matter, but day after day after day, week after week after week. And in 12 short weeks, man, you can be in a very, very different position. And then you multiply that over a number of 12-week years and it's life-changing in a very short period of time. So that was the first thing, just really helping people kind of get out of that mindset, to change the mindset away from the annual environment where, and there aren't 4 of those in the year, right? So the first thing people go to, well, that's quarterly. Well, no, quarter is part of a whole. This is the whole. And so each 12-week year stands on its own. And when we do that, we're just more consistent with the things that move the needle.
So what are the keys to this concept? Like, what are some of the things that I'm listening to this going, okay, I want to get done as much in 12 weeks as I do in a year. Like, what do I need to do that? Like, what's the shift that I have to have in my mind and some of the like frameworks behind this?
A couple of things. One is to recognize, when we start to build plans and set goals and all that stuff, is to really realize what we control and what we don't control. Right. So I always ask when I do workshops, I'll ask people, what do we have greater control over, our actions or our outcomes? And the answer, of course, is
our actions.
Our actions, right? Yeah. So we don't control the outcomes. Bill got it right. And we didn't even prep. But we don't control our outcomes. We desire the outcomes, right? But we don't control them. So really recognizing that everything you create in life is created from your actions. And so goals are outcomes. And if you get too fixated on the goal, it actually becomes paralyzing. What we need to be clear on are what are the actions. And so, when you start to look at a 12-week year, the first thing we do is we set 12-week goals. We don't do annual goals, but we're not setting them unattached to anything. We start, the first discipline of the 12-week year is a compelling vision. So we start with a long-term vision of what do you want your life to look like? And by the way, what would great look like? Not good, but great. God willing, we're going to be here. Let's make it great. And then we pull that more near term. So we'll start first, long-term aspirational, 5, 10, 15 or more years in the future. We'll bring that 3 years out. And then we're setting 12-week goals that align with that. And what that does, Bill, is it creates an emotional connection to what I'm doing Monday through Friday in this life I want to live. So real estate investing, flipping, right? I need to attach to the actions it takes for me to, find properties, assess properties, get in there, turn them around, market them, sell them, that type of stuff. I need to attach all those actions to the life I want to live 3 years from now. So that there's a compelling reason for me to take that action, especially if I haven't done a lot of it in the past. Especially if it's new, which I know for some of your members it is, right? They're getting started. They're trying to do the first couple properties, right? There's a lot of uncertainty around it, right? What's the reason I'm going to step into that uncertainty? It's easier to kind of put things off and do what I've always done, which ties back to our earlier conversation, which most people that want to do their own thing never make the leap. Why? Because it's more comfortable. It's more convenient to keep doing what I'm always doing. And so, the 12-week year is the time frame in which we work in, but what we're doing is we're applying a set of disciplines and principles that are fundamental to high performance. It's not stuff Michael and I created. We just packaged it based on trial and error of what it really took to be successful in any area of life, whether it's in your personal life or whether it's in business.
One thing that I notice where I fall flat is planning all the things that I can control, like my vacations, my trips, my times, where there might be a week where I know that I already know if I planned ahead, I couldn't get anything done. But my expectation is that week I'm getting a lot accomplished when I'm on vacation, because my milestone is not wrapped around the actual time that I have available over those 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So what have you guys looked at with that? Is there more like a little bit more long-term planning over 12 weeks that needs to happen of, hey, I have these ups and downs and cycles because we have to work in the business as well as kind of on the business on some of this stuff. So what advice would you give me? Basically, I'm asking for some one-on-one.
Yeah. So first off, I would decouple your 12-week goals from annual goals, because you're doing quarterly goals then, which is different. Mm-hmm. Right? As I said earlier, quarter is part of a whole. And so you never get out of this mindset that I can catch up. And you might catch up and hit the goal, Bill, but you can't recapture capacity you left on the table last week, last month. That's the difference between where people are performing, what they're capable of. It's not 12-week year is not about taking everything you do in 12 months and trying to cram it into 12 weeks. It's about accomplishing more in 12 weeks. It's all about more focus. It's not about more activity. It's more consistent with the activities that matter most. So that's the first thing. Get out of, because you're still annualized to a large degree. The other thing then would be, as you plan these 12-week goals, is one of the things with 12-week planning that's different than traditional planning is getting really granular. Most plans are conceptual, they're directional, they're not tactical. And so a couple problems with conceptual plans is, one, they underestimate or they mask the effort. It looks like I've got a few things. If I really break that down to discrete actions, I might have 20 or 30 discrete actions. So it looks like just a few things is really a lot of work involved. The other thing is from getting it done standpoint, when we get granular, now we can stage it. We know what needs to be done in week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and week 4. And so if I got a vacation plan in week 5, I know nothing's getting done in that week. Now I got to look at, okay, does that mean I've got to do a few more in week 4 or in week 6, or what does that look like? So I can plan for that. That's almost impossible to do if you're doing an annual plan, because you don't know what you're going to be doing 3, 4, 5 months from now, right? I mean, you just don't know. But with 12 weeks, you can predict the activity. And so, we take our clients through a process when they set a goal, through a mind mapping process, to really think about all the things they could do. But we're not going to try and build a plan and include all of that. We're going to pick the critical few. What are the least number of things to accomplish the goal? And then let's get really granular with those. So what we end up with is a really focused, granular plan that spells out specific actions that need to happen each week in order to hit the goal. And then that's what we control, right? So if we don't get tactical, we don't get granular like that, then it's really difficult to execute. And if you're part of a team, it's really difficult to get people empowered and to own it if you're not tactical, because people are reluctant to own anything that's vague.
Yeah, I like what you said. Decouple the 12-week kind of plan from the annual goals and things like that. Like, make it something and the actions that need to come out to get even more granular. For me, it's usually, and maybe the problem is I'm a really big picture thinker, and I'm constantly looking at strategic changes and vision of the company, and it's not really in the weeds, getting granular. But even some of those things I can break down and get really granular on the actions that I need to take for it.
You need to think of that annual goal as like a 4-year vision. And then, in the first 12 weeks, you're either going to be on pace, you're going to be ahead, you're going to be behind. And then we decide how we adjust. But really, and it's decoupling that in your mind. And that's not like flipping a switch, because everything everybody's done to this point's been annualized. It's just the way the world operates. But the more you can periodize it, the more effective it's going to be. And then as we talked about, really getting granular. So the benefit of that too is once we create the plan, we absolutely know what matters most for the next 12 weeks. It's what's in the plan. Everything else becomes secondary, which is really powerful, because day to day, there's stuff coming at you left and right, and there will always be more to do than you have time to do it. We have limited capacity. So really focusing that plan at the goal level and at the tactic level, but getting really granular. Otherwise, keeping score, WHAMs, and all that stuff have no traction. If you don't have a tactical plan, you've got a conceptual plan, that's a waste of time, those other pieces.
Yeah, we've mentioned WHAM a couple of times. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. Study after study has shown that if you're going alone, you're stacking the odds against yourself. So WHAM is just a peer support group. It's called a weekly accountability meeting. And if you haven't read our book, your listeners need to read the book and the chapters on accountability, or go to YouTube and catch one of my videos on accountability, because we have a very different view, and so in these groups, we're not trying to hold each other accountable. We're holding each other capable, which means, we're willingly entering into a conversation with a couple other folks on a weekly basis to talk about how we're doing, honestly and candidly. How are we doing with our goals? How are we doing with our execution? And then the other folks in the WHAM group are pressing in, they're challenging us, they're supporting us, they're encouraging us. And it's a very short meeting. It's 15 minutes, not a strategy session. It's not a problem solving session. But what it does is it creates accountability to self. And then we're more intentional as we go through the week about what's getting done and what's not getting done. And so they have a big effect on how people execute and whether or not they accomplish their goals.
Yeah, one of our accountability groups. So the WHAM, I show up every week, and it was for my relationship. I was struggling. My wife and I were struggling, and I got a course on relationships. And some of my actions were to go through a module of the course, send her 2 letters, do a date night every week, like all these different actions that I set up that were very, I said, if I do these things, then our relationship will get better. I'm confident. And I would show up, and sure enough, I wouldn't have the assignment or the module done like the day before that meeting came up. And sure enough, every time I did not want to be at like a 40% or 50%. Like I need to be up at that 90, 100%. So, I own the company. I can't show up being a scumbag. And so I got to lead by example. And it really did push me to make sure that, I was in the gym listening to my training course that morning before my meeting and stuff like that. It really, really, really helps when, especially people that are already accountable to yourself, but you will let yourself slide. Even I'll let myself slide sometimes. But when I get in front of other people, there's no possible way. If I said I'm going to do something, I'm going to show up and not have it done. And I can convince myself and maybe argue out, but when I have to show up for somebody else. And then there's the folks that need that. Like some of us, you think you want accountability until you have it. You need it really bad. And those folks show up and they see a huge difference. I've seen people reach their goals by halfway through, and something they never thought. It was a stretch at 12 weeks. And at 6, 7, 8 weeks, they've got the number of houses. They've got the things because they were taking the actions. They were making more offers. Or consistent offers. They were, sending out a certain number of cards or cold calls or all these things to get leads. They were having lunches. They were talking to more private money lenders, and they raised way more money than they expected. I've seen people raise millions of dollars in 12 weeks. It was amazing. And they've only raised a couple $100,000 before. There's just a couple tweaks and changes. It's really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, I think the enemy for all of us is comfort. I mean, that's what we're wired for. And given the choice, that's what we lean towards. So, setting up the 12-week year puts processes and systems into your world so that you can lean on them. And so what that WHAM does is creates productive tension. When I'm not doing what I said I needed to do, it creates some tension because I can't hide from it. Right. I'm looking at it every week. I'm in a WHAM group with a couple other folks that are confronting it. And at some point I'm either going to drop out, which doesn't help me, or I'm going to step up. And that's when things get better. So that's what we call productive tension. And, but recognizing that everyone deals with this. It's not like because you're struggling with it, you're broke, right? Something's wrong with you. That's normal. And so what we want to do is we want to create systems and process and support so that in spite of that, we can take the action. And not being perfect. Your members need to know it's not about being perfect. It's just being more consistent with the things that matter. And that moves the needle in a profound way in a very short period of time.
Yeah. And just in case anybody's thinking that I was at 100% every single week, I was not. I was usually somewhere between like 70 and 90 some. And I had a couple of weeks where I hit 100, but like what I saw, and everybody, there was nobody in my group that was 100% every single week. Perfection just doesn't exist, frankly. And especially when you're pushing yourself a little bit, like we're really trying to get to, and something comes up, you have like a sick kid, you have something that happens, you were just maxed out and you need to sleep that week, And so what I saw, the people that I'm talking about that raised millions of dollars in 12 weeks, these folks were at like, there was a week they were like 52%. Then we got like 68%. It's amazing to see.
Yeah. So, typically if you're averaging 80+%, you'll hit the goal. And that's not to say that at 50% you won't, just the probability is much greater if you're 80+%, but it's not about being perfect. I mean, I've been on the system for decades now. I'm far from perfect and I have bad weeks, but I don't have 2 in a row because I'm in a WHAM. Because we're talking about it, and I've learned to recover quickly, which is what it's about. You're going to get derailed. You're going to stumble. There's going to be things, with the 12-week year, we talk about it's a guilt-free zone. You can't change last week, but you can learn from it and adjust. And that's the key to it.
It's really good stuff. I have like one last question before we kind of wrap up. What are some of the things that you see, some of the most successful people? So you have tens of thousands of people that go through this. What are some of the things that those people do that you see that make them really, really successful in this, like this concept, this 12-week year, these WHAMs, these kind of things that they're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing is just applying the system. There's a tendency to pick pieces you like. Oh, I like that vision stuff, but that measurement stuff, not so much, or vice versa. I love the analytics, vision's fluff. I mean, it's really applying it as a system, because when you do build, it's a self-correcting system, meaning you get better. And so there's a tendency for people, they'll get it rolling and they'll have some big increases and then they'll start to drop off, right? It's pretty natural. Again, we gravitate towards what we're comfortable with. And so we kind of pull back a little bit. And so just staying with the routines. We did, Michael and I did a session. We do something every month called Greatness in the Moment series. And we did a topic one time on habits and routines. And I think there's this misunderstanding that you can create a habit out of anything. You can create habits on tasks that you find easy, which is most of the stuff isn't going to create the success you want in life. In those areas, you need to create routines, which means you got to consciously choose to do them. And the 12-week year is just a routine that you got to consciously choose to stick with. And then each 12 weeks, there's actions in your plan that you're going to have to choose to do. And some of those, depending on your business, some of those will be recurring, right? Some of the actions that drive the economic engine will be the same every 12 weeks. There's other actions as you build new capacity that are new and different, but you have to choose to do them every week. And so when people get away from that is when they start to struggle. When you just stick with it, like our best clients that are accomplishing the most, they would never start a 12-week year without a 12-week plan. They would never start a week without a weekly plan. They'd never start a week without scoring their execution and doing a WHAM. I mean, what we call the weekly routine, 3 simple steps that just become a routine. And when you do that, you perform better.
I love that. You said, people pick the things that they like in there and then they just go with it. So it's like a little Frankenstein model of all these different systems and processes. And it's like, look, if you're gonna do that, and that's one thing that we talked about in our accountability groups. We said, well, hey, we operate off of these different systems, and in this business, we talk about this, and then we're using WHAM methodology and the names of things and all the different things. We said we're either gonna go there or go here. Like we have to operate off of these systems inside this group and do all the things instead of just making up our own whatever we feel like that week. And here's the rules of the game. here's the things that you need to do. Don't just pick and choose what you like, because the thing's set up specifically to run and execute the right way. So I'd say
we've had success in every industry. I mean, we've worked in every industry at every level. So it's not a question of, does this work? You know, it's been vetted for a couple decades now. So it works really well when you apply it as a system. And that's when you get the biggest.
I've heard so many times, I mean, your book is recommended all over the world of, hey, you need to get better at this. Go read the 12-week year, read the 12-week year, read the 12-week year. And if anybody's listening who hasn't read it, you absolutely have to read it. I remember hearing you on a podcast years ago, probably 6-7 years ago, when I started in this business. And I was like, I read that book and I was like, wow, man, I am definitely not as good as I think I am at executing on this stuff. You know, I came fresh out of the military. I think I was still flying airplanes for the Navy. And I was like, I don't need this. And jumped in with Becca on accountability right after that. And it changed everything for me. Her running that meeting, holding us accountable. And like you said drop out or step up. There were 5 of us when we started. There were 2 of us left standing at the end. Yeah. And it was me and Becca. 3 dropped out. And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And we were up, we were working together before everybody else in our house got up, and talking about what we were doing and making sure that we're hitting our actions. So,
there's a price to pay for being successful, and it's not compromising your values or your health or any of that, but it's sacrificing your comfort. That's the big thing, right? And so you've got to be willing to sacrifice your comfort to be great, and not just occasionally, but regularly.
That's right. It was 2.5 hours before my family got up that I was working full time. I was flying 8 to 10 hours a day, every single day. And 1 weekend a month, I had to go leave to fly somewhere else. And I wanted to start this real estate business. I had the calling just like you. I said, there's something there. I really like it. And then I'd get home from work. I'd have dinner, put our son Will to bed. He was a newborn baby. And I'd go back in the office for 2 more hours. I just told my wife, look, you're probably not gonna see me for a year. There's something here and I know it. I can feel it. I'll be successful. I don't know how, but I'll do it. I just need a year. Give me a year and I'll make it work. And we did. And it was fortunate, and it was a lot of sacrifice, like you said. So Brian, obviously, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, but we have something really cool that we're doing together in just like a month. So in July, you're coming out to Park City, Utah you mentioned a workshop here, that you've done these workshops before. And one thing that you asked, you said, what can you control or not control, right? And so we're going to do a workshop together. You're going to come out with our 7-figure altitude members. So all of our high-level mastermind members, if you're coming to Park City, Utah, this might be the first time that you're hearing about this, because we've been keeping it a secret. We haven't told you guys yet what's going on, but we've brought in some amazing coaches and trainers in our mastermind groups in the past at our events. And this is going to be a really awesome workshop. We've done sales, we've done all kinds of things in the past, but really, truly diving into this productivity, this accountability, this 12-week year system, and doing a workshop with Brian Moran. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? So if you were thinking about not coming to this event because you have something else going on, or you weren't sure, or you were going to skip this one and come to the next one, I have no doubt that you will be signing up, you'll be jumping in, you'll be getting your reservations done. And I'm gonna say, anybody that's out there who's interested in coming to check this out, you can go to 7figurealtitude.com, submit an application. Remember, you have to be at a certain level in your house flipping and wholesaling business to qualify for this group, but it doesn't mean you can't fill out an application. We can help you. We can talk about where you are and kind of what we think that you need to do to get to that point to qualify. So fill out an application, and if it's the right fit, if we're the right fit for you, you guys are the right fit for us, you can jump in and come join us in Park City, Utah. It's I want to say it's July 14th and 15th, but I don't have that off the top of my head. So we'll put it in the show notes for you guys, the exact dates, but it's a Wednesday and Thursday. So Brian's going to come out. He's going to hang with us in Park City, Utah, do a workshop for us. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm really excited about it. So I encourage anybody who's listening, if you want more of this, obviously buy the 12-week year, buy the book, and Brian's going to tell you how you can get a hold of him and things like that. But if you want to see him live, you want to workshop, and also be a part of an amazing mastermind that does accountability groups a lot like this, come join us, submit an application. So Brian, how can people, what should they do? Obviously pick up the book. Is there a best place to get that? And how can they get a hold of you?
You bet. First off, come to that event, because it's going to be awesome. I'm excited about it. But yeah, you can get the book on Amazon. You can get it anywhere. You can get it off our website, 12weekyear.com. we do have a getting started course that's free, 12weekyear.com/getting started. You get a few emails from me that'll help you with your vision and your plan and the things we talk about. And that might be a good little thing to do before you come to the session even. That'd be kind of cool. But 12weekyear.com is where you can find us and help in any way. The book is really the first place, right? Where you can get a sense of what's the concept and how we apply it. And so even if you don't read much, the book's in 2 sections, the first 64 pages. If you just read that, you'll get a good sense of the concept and what it can do for you.
Brian, I appreciate it. Again, everybody that's listening, you want to come see Brian live. So this event is in person. I know a lot of our events have been virtual in the past, but we're all going to be in Park City, Utah. We've got about 100 people or so now that have RSVP'd from our 7-figure altitude group. We'd love to see you if you're kind of on the fence about joining us. You're not sure if this is the right group for you. Obviously, we do some really amazing things just like this. We'd love to have you. We'd love the opportunity to help you reach your freedom goal, hit your business goals, do more in 12 weeks than you can in a year just from this one conference that you come to. So go to 7figurealtitude.com, fill out an application there. That's the first step. And then Dave, somebody on the team, will talk with you and see if it's right for you. No pressure. It's very easy conversation, however you like to be communicated with. And then go to 12weekyear.com, check out Brian and his team and everything that they're doing. I know they're doing some amazing things, and I'm really kind of pushing him to do some more with us too. So we'll see where that goes after this event.
I'm game.
So, Brian, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Yeah. See you in a month.
Okay. Bye.